As a result of the ongoing growth and aging of the global population, the demographics of nations have gradually made their way to the attention of the general public. Along with birth rates, age is typically the primary topic of discussion in these kinds of interactions. On the other hand, the differences that exist between the sexes are frequently ignored. There are hundreds of nations that are amid gender imbalances, which are characterized by the fact that one gender is more numerous than the other. While males make up the majority of the population in a lot of countries, there are a significant number of countries in which women exceed men. These discrepancies are caused by several different contributing variables. This phenomenon is influenced by several factors, including war, culture, politics, and genetics. Number 10. Estonia with 52.47%. Similar to the other countries on this list that are located in Eastern Europe, Estonia is still dealing with the aftermath of its participation in the Second World War, in addition to several public health problems that are associated with heavy drinking and smoking. Over a year, the typical Estonian male consumes 17.5 liters of alcohol, which is more than twice as much as the average Estonian female. In addition, Estonia has one of the highest suicide rates in Europe, which is approximately 12.2 per 100,000 people. The rate of suicide among Estonian men is almost 5 times higher than the suicide rate among Estonian women. There are around 11,000 persons that leave Estonia each year, either to permanently relocate to other countries or to find temporary employment elsewhere. Emigrants are primarily males who are looking for better economic opportunities in their new country. Number 9. Zimbabwe with 52.72%. In Zimbabwe, as of February 2021, women controlled 31.9% of the seats in parliament. This is an example of how progress may be achieved in different countries by a variety of different procedures. On the other hand, this positive is tempered by the fact that there are a disproportionate number of women in the country, which can lead to problems of its own. A male mortality rate of 413% was recorded in the year 2020, which is a relatively dismal number when compared to the United States average of 138%. The probability of passing away between the ages of 15 and 60 is represented by this prevalence rate. Because Zimbabwe's total mortality rate has been decreasing over the previous few years, imbalances such as the ratio between males and females will probably become more equilibrium in the future. Number 8. Portugal with 52.8%. Since 2010, there has been a rise in the number of women in Portugal, which has corresponded with an increase in the level of gender equality in the country. Despite these advancements for women, the Portuguese economy has been difficult during the past 10 years, and as a consequence, a significant number of Portuguese males have left the country in search of a better future. Brazil, along with other countries that are members of the European Union, is the most common destination for Portuguese males who are looking to relocate. There is a correlation between the lower life expectancy of Portuguese men and the bigger population of women in Portugal. It is estimated that Portuguese men live for an average of 78 years, while their female counterparts live for an average of 84 years. Number 7. Georgia with 53%. Georgia has a population of about 3.7 million people, making it a very small nation. There are around 52.98% females among people, while the remaining 47.02% are males. One of the oldest Christian nations in the world, Georgia has a lengthy history of fighting for its independence from numerous invasions by powerful neighbors such as Russia and Turkey. Georgia is also one of the oldest nations in the world to be a Christian nation. In addition, the availability of economic prospects motivates a significant number of male residents to look for work abroad, which results in high rates of emigration. In the end, mortality is the only factor that can be held accountable for the disparity that exists between the male and female demographic composition. Risk-taking activities, including drinking alcohol and smoking, are to blame, just as they are in several other countries on this list. Number 6. Lithuania with 53.02%. In a manner that is comparable to that of its Baltic relatives in Latvia, the male population of Lithuania is characterized by the same self-destructive conduct. Men in this country have far greater rates of both smoking and alcohol abuse than women do. More than 1/3 of Lithuanian males smoke cigarettes daily, and many more men smoke cigarettes on a casual basis. This is because smoking cigarettes is so prevalent in this region of the world. One of the most important goals that the Lithuanian health authorities have set for themselves is to reduce the likelihood of people smoking cigarettes. Similar to Nepal, Lithuania has been a victim of its young and productive men fleeing the country in search of better opportunities in other regions of Europe, such as Germany or England. Number 5. Russia with 53.55%. Similar to its neighbor Ukraine, Russia is also able to believe that the disastrous effects of the Second World War are responsible for some of the gender imbalance that exists in their country. A staggering 27 million people were killed or injured as a result of the conflict, making the Soviet Union the nation that suffered the highest casualties of any nation. Nevertheless, the dark past of Russia is not the sole cause for the increase in the number of women in the country. Similar to Estonia and Lithuania, the likelihood of Russian men succumbing to alcoholism is significantly higher than that of women. It was only after the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s that this situation became even more dire. Because of frequent drinking and daily cigarette usage, a significant portion of Russia's male population has been experiencing the long-term impacts of these behaviors for almost 30 years. The fourth place goes to Latvia with 53.57%. The small European nation of Latvia, which is located on the coast of the Baltic Sea, has the second highest female-to-male ratio on the entire planet. This gap is a result of a large number of self-inflicted dangers, which are more frequently encountered among men in this region of the world. There is a significantly higher incidence of heavy drinking and smoking among Latvian men. These behaviors are significant contributors to a wide range of health issues, including cardiovascular disease and a variety of malignancies. When compared to the life expectancy of women in Latvia, which is 78 years, the life expectancy of men in Latvia is approximately 68 years. It is also true that the suicide rate is significantly greater among the male population. This trend is a cause for concern that can be found in the majority of countries all over the world. Number 3. Belarus with 53.99%. Belarus, which is still suffering from the wounds of its history, is one of the most tragic stories to come out of Eastern Europe. Because of its location on the border of what was formerly known as Nazi Germany, the region that would eventually become Belarus was subjected to destruction during the Second World War. More than a quarter of the whole population of Belarus perished as a result of the war, making it the country with the largest number of casualties per capita throughout the conflict. In addition to being one of the poorest countries in Europe, Belarus is also the only actual dictatorship that remains on the continent. The standard of living is low and there are few opportunities for economic growth. This has resulted in a significant number of young men fleeing to other regions of Europe. Number 2. Ukraine with 54.4%. The disparity that already exists between males and women is expected to widen in light of the current situation in Ukraine as the war continues to worsen and the number of victims continues to rise. The low number of men in Ukraine has been a problem for a long time, even before the beginning of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. This is even though the situation in modern Ukraine is quite dire. There is widespread consensus among historians that the Second World War had such a devastating impact on the male population of Ukraine that it has not yet recovered to the levels it was before 1941. If the conflict between Russia and Ukraine maintains its current course, it is quite improbable that this pattern will change shortly. Number 1. Armenia with a 55.04%. Throughout the 20th century, the historic nation of Armenia has been through a lot of different things. The nation has not benefited from the Soviet Union's rule or the wars that they have fought with their neighbors. The Armenian Genocide, which occurred during and after the First World War, is largely responsible for the lack of men in Armenia. This is because the Armenian Genocide had a significant impact on the country. During the time that Turkey and the Ottoman Empire were still in control of Syria, 1.5 million Armenians were either put to death through mass executions or marched across the desert to their deaths. Because the killings were carried out in such a well-organized and methodical manner, the term genocide was used to describe the events that took place. Based on the records that were gathered, it appears that the majority of the victims were male. The recent volatility in the economy has also resulted in males from the United States departing in search of employment. At present, there are significant Armenian populations located all over the world. All three of these countries, Russia, France, and the United States, have significant Armenian populations. Do you like it? Kindly give your valuable response in our comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting and informative